Basically, in today's video, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take this level progression, and you can see it works in the sense that it is a level progression, but after we beat this level, nothing actually unlocks. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making it so these levels unlock once we've beaten the previous level. So once we beat 0, 0, 0, 1 should be unlocked, but if we beat 0, 0 again, 0, 2 should not unlock. So we get this like incremental progression. That's what we want to do. But as part of that, what we also want to do is we want to add savings. So that way, basically, when the player beats a level and then they exit the game for whatever reason, when they come back, they don't lose their level progression. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. And yeah, let's get to it. So I'm going to make a file, save system, header file, nothing crazy. And all it's going to do basically is it's going to be a way to load data and then save it. In our case, we actually only care about one thing, which is the level that the player is on. So I'm going to start with a getData function, and that looks fine. And just for a reminder, there's this level progression header file, right? So max level beaten is the only save data we need to load and save at this point. We may come back to it later, but right now, this is all we actually care about. So in terms of getting data, and just so we're on the same page, the one other thing is I'm going to make a save.txt file, and I'm just going to put in 2. So I'm going to put in 1. This is all we expect in our save data. Now, in terms of like if other people were playing if we actually wanted to make like a very like, this is basically as naive of a save system as we can get, right? Because all it takes for a player to change the save system is to go in to this text file and say I've unlocked level 100, right? So if we have 100 levels, then all of a sudden that will mess up. But for us, we don't really care, right? We're just trying to show basics of game dev, and if players want to abuse what we build, that is okay by us. Anyways, so we're going to do it, and then we're going to do in our constants, we need one other constant because we're going to have a save directory, save.txt. Save directory is a lie, it's just a save file. And then for this constant, we'll make it like save file, whatever. Cool. So we'll do std if stream, right, and once, oops. All right, if stream, and then we'll name it like in file, and then we're going to take in the save file. Pretty reasonable. And then what we want to do before we try to do anything else, we want to make sure that it is a file and we can read from it. If it isn't, we're just going to return 0 because that's going to be our like max level beaten defaults to 0, right? Because we don't really care if it isn't there or we had trouble, we can just return 0 and then we have like a very reasonable default state. So now we're going to actually read in the data. We can make this smarter because we know we're only reading in 1 to 2 bytes. But for now, we'll be a little bit lazy, and then later on we can come back to it if we want to. So we're going to do a try, and the reason we're going to do a try in this case is we're going to call, did I mess up? No, that's fine. Num data, which is basically going to be, again, this is this 1 right here or whatever would be there. So we get our thing, and then we do std line, and then we can call, s2i, because we're going to do a string to an integer, and we're going to give it the data that we just put right here. Cool, num data, and then we close the file because we got to do that, and then we can return num data. Otherwise, there was some error. Actually, can I call like fine? I'll just do regardless infile.close because we did open it, so we do have to close it. And then I'm going to have some kind of error message. I don't know if we actually need that. We'll just do a return 0. as a default. So if there was some kind of problem with actually reading in the data, we're just going to return a 0. So we can actually probably num data equals 0, right? We can just do that. We can put this over here. I'm not even going to bother with logging, but what I'm going to put in okay, so now I have a little like note of like I should probably be doing something a little bit smarter here. But I might try catch, where basically I'm catching any error, and if there is any error, we're just going to default num data to 0 and just let the game go on. But if there isn't any error, then we'll actually read from it. Okay, there's our first function. The next function is a little bit easier. In this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be saving the data. So SS, again, that just stands for save system, save data. And in this case, we're going to do an OF stream, right? Out file. This is again going to be a save file, nothing complicated there. We do have to have something like this where it's like out file. So were we able to open it? If not, then we'll do, and at some point I'm probably just going to make a logger, I feel like, because all these like C errors, C outs, they don't really show up with end curses anyways, so it doesn't really help. And this is way too long of a line. So maybe I can do like, what would be better? Maybe like this. Yeah, something like that. I feel like it's a little bit more readable. And then we're just going to exit one because there's nothing to do. Otherwise, out file, data, out file, dot close. I didn't actually give it the data. In this case, it's like the max level beaten. So there we go. There's our two actual functions that we're going to need to get this thing done. And now what we want to do is we want to do some basic things where basically like we don't actually want to include the save file when we're committing to GitHub. So we can add that. And then the next thing we can do is we can actually start updating the max level beaten and actually using the system. So let's start with main C++. When we do this, we can do ss save data, and this is going to be level progression.max level beaten. Simple enough. And then what we can do is in this level progression right here, right, we can do save data, right? And we can do level progression dot max level beaten is equal to ss dot get data, right? And as a reminder, if we have trouble getting something, or if the save.txt file it doesn't exist, then we will just default it to 0. So let's just try this out real quick. Do we successfully compile? We do. Sick. And what was our save.txt? It was 1. So we should have this one showing up, but we don't. So let's go to the level progression. And let's go to the render function. And at right here, let's do move 0, 0. Actually, this is fine, whatever. Print W, and we can do like a %i, and we can do level, it's just max level beaten. All right, so now if we do it, we can at least see if something worked. And you can see we got a 0. So we need to figure out why we got a 0 instead of a save, instead of what we thought we'd be getting. So let's go into the save system. Save.txt, that's 1. We'll check the constants to make sure this is fine. Save.txt looks fine to me. Looks fine to me. And we'll do one other thing. Oops, we don't need a main HP. We need the main C++ file. And before we even start end curses, we're just going to return 1. So now if we run it, we shouldn't even have like a window opening or anything, but we do. Okay, so let me exit that. Let me just comment all this out. So now that's going to fix that. So you can see that that was something. Let me just do DC. Oh, oops, there it is. Nom data. So let me go, and since we're already here, let's just try it out with a quick cout to make sure everything is okay. Level progression dot max level beaten. And then we'll just do an endl. We'll make it, we'll print it out, and assuming that's good, then I'll go and uncomment out to the stuff, which it isn't. So we can go back into here, and then let's see what's wrong here. So if not in file, we can do like a quick little thing to see if this is the problem. Could be. It's not. Oh, is that's annoying. That's super annoying. Yeah, that's it. So basically I was redefining it in this scope, and then it was going out of scope, and yeah. Okay, so let me get rid of that, and we can get rid of that, get rid of that. And then we can go into the main file, and we can be smart again and have all these running again. So now if I run it, Sokoban, oh, I got rid of return, I didn't get rid of that. Okay, so let's fix the terminal real quick. I don't know why I just remade it, but my bad. Okay, now we play, and you can see everything's right. If I try to enter 02, I can't, but if I try to enter 01, I can. So, and let's just do 2 other tests. The first is I'm just going to make it 0, or I'll make it 2, so it's just different. I don't have to remake it, fun fact. So that's working. Now I'm going to do remove the save file, and I'm going to run it again, play it, and you can see just 0, 0 is unlocked, which is what we want. And I'll press QQ, save it, and now we're pretty good. So there's 2 other things I want to do before we end the video. First, we're going to change it so that way when we beat a level, we actually can see that level unlock. And then the second thing we're going to do is we're going to implement auto-saving. So basically, the second the player beats a level, we're going to save. And then we'll also save when we're quitting, but we're only going to save if we have to. So that's the next 2 parts of the video. So let's start with the game part. So we'll go into the game header file. And so basically we're going to have this level progression, right? And what we're actually going to want to be able to do is access the level beaten, the max level beaten. So this is where we get into this kind of unfortunate pattern, where you can see we get this kind of error. And if I make it, you're going to see a bunch of errors where basically we're having this problem where the level progression is using the game struct for its own purposes to give the game state what it needs to do to run the game. But the game actually needs the result, the level progression, to be able to say if the update of the next level should be possible, because it knows if the player won and nothing else does. So what we have is a circular dependency. There are couple ways around it. Generally, when you run into a circular dependency, the best bet is just to rethink your design and make a better design. So for example, we could add like an application state on top of all this, and then each state could have access to the application state, and then it could make changes to the application state and everything would kind of work. And that's probably the better design, to be perfectly honest. But I want to basically do something else, which is called forward declaration. And I don't want to do it necessarily because I think it's the right solution for the game, but just to show that there's multiple ways to solve a problem. So now if we run it, everything's running again, and it's just because we forward defined it, and then later on the compiler will actually fill in the definition. So there's that, and now we're actually going to go into game C++, and what we're going to do is we're going to update what happens if the player won. We still have this kind of like unfortunate behavior right here, and we'll probably maybe one day get rid of it. I don't really know if it's really going to be super relevant, but it's worth remembering. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to say max level beaten. The game over state, by the way, it can only return, let me go to Sokoban. Right, there's the game over, right? There's no case for the player to actually lose. So the only way we're actually going to be, in this case, in here is if the player won. So a better name may be Sokoban player 1, but we can think about that later. Okay, so we get the level progression, right? Selected index, and we do +1. So this is the max level. This is the level the player selected, and then +1 would be the next level over. So now we're gonna do our autosave. And in this case, it's just gonna be, I don't think we need 2 comments here, it's a bit much. So I want this comment, this can go away, and then we can say, if the max level beaten is greater than or equal to the level progression, max level beaten, right? Pretty easy. What we'll do is we'll do ++ level progression dot max. We can actually just, whatever, we'll just do this way, and then we'll do ss save data, right? Level progression, max level beaten. So in this case, we incremented the level progression, max level beaten, and then we actually updated stuff. So that was pretty simple. Is there anything else that we actually need to do before we can just try it. I don't remember off the top of my head if there was anything else we had to do before this was just gonna work. So I'm gonna beat level 0, 0 pretty hard. Now I'm gonna press Q to exit. I'm gonna restart it, play, and you can see we still have level 0, 1. I'm gonna do this. I'm actually gonna quit just to see if it's still here. And exit, and then we'll come back into it. Still working, so let me beat this level. And then what I'm gonna do to test if autosave worked, I'm just gonna press Control C to just force quit out. We'll go to save txt, and you can see we're in there. So Sokoban. And you can see now we can play level 2. So that is the end of this video. Basically all we did was we made a pretty simple little save system where it's literally just an integer in a text file, and that's our save system. And then we added auto saving, and then we added unlocking the levels in the level progression to work around that. Now in the next one, I kind of want to take our save system a little bit further, because right now we have this kind of boring game, I would say, where there's not a lot of incentive to find better solutions or find faster solutions or what have you. So what we're going to start to do is we're going to add the time it took for the player to beat the level and add it to the save system. We're also going to take the number of moves it took the player to beat the level and add that to the save system. And then what we're going to do is when the player has actually beaten that level, we'll display those stats. And then after that, what we'll do is we'll start to try to build some systems to incentivize the user to try to basically do better than before. So these are, as you can see, the upcoming parts. Just a little spoilers. And yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.